Well, I want to welcome everybody to the Abundant Life Center on this 14th day of June, 2026. And I'm
Isn't
glad
that
to
Flag
see.
Day?
Pardon?
Isn't that Flag Day?
Flag Day.
Day.
Flag Day.
Flag
Yes,
Day.
Dad
yes.
Day? Is it Father's Day today or is
No,
it?
Flag
Flag
Day.
Day.
Flag.
Father's Day's next weekend.
Oh, well, I thought
Flag
it was.
Day.
Today's Dad Day.
Flag.
Oh, Flag Day.
Flag.
Yes, that is Flag.
Spell that. What
I
kind of
recognize
day is
that.
it?
What's the significance of Flag Day?
Oh, Flag Day.
The day we all remember Betsy Ross.
There you go. Thank you,
That's
Kate.
original. I like it, Kay. Is that true or just
No,
who knows? Yeah. Okay. All righty. Well, welcome to the ALC on this wonderful Flag Day. We're going to start by just settling in. If you want to close your eyes, do a little centering. Take a deep breath. Just relax, let it go. And imagine an old sturdy chest sitting in front of you. The kind built to last, with a heavy latch on its lock. Reach out and lift the latch and slowly open the lid. Inside, you see that the chest is completely empty. Now picture all your worries, desires, and frustrations, everything that weighs on your mind or pulls at your attention. And one by one, place them gently into the chest. Take a moment to be sure you've left nothing behind. And when you're ready, close the lid and turn away, leaving the chest behind you. In front of you stretches a breathtaking view, a vast sea from the edge of a high cliff. Feel the fresh air, hear the sound of the waves, and take in the peace of the open horizon. And now open your eyes when you're ready. Bring back that calm sense and be present and free. So today, this week, we'll share our beliefs. I think we'll all be on silent, but we'll read them together if you'd like to. I'll be reading them aloud so we can hear it. Our beliefs. Divine love is the source from which all of life flows. The direct experience of that ultimate source is available to all. All life is a unique expression of the divine to be revered. We co-create our world with the ultimate source and each other through consciousness. There is truth and wisdom in all spiritual paths. We choose the path of love. And our opening song is I Honor Thee. And welcome. I'm looking forward to this. We're really glad to have Reverend Norman Wolf with us again. We love to hear his messages, be stimulated by what he's thinking and what he has to share. And if anybody's watching this that doesn't know, he's been in our community for a long time. And actually, the beliefs we read were shaped under his tutelage hand, So as we all got together and tried to put into words exactly what we did believe as a group. So thank you. So prior to his message, which is your inner voice, friend or foe, we'll enjoy a meditation. I am enough. Thank you. Someone may have noticed that I hadn't lit the God candle. I did as we started our meditation. So I'll just affirm that it represents the one light and power in the universe that people call by many names, and the name you choose to use here is welcome. So I invite Norman to unmute his mic and share with his thoughts on the message, Your Inner Voice, Friend or Foe.
Thank you, Linda.
Mhm.
That's quiet, still in the voice, that voice of guidance. We've all heard it, the promise of it. Do what you love, and the money will follow, as Marcia Sinitar says. Or as Joseph Campbell often said, follow your bliss, and doors will open. The inner voice. Sometimes I have found the inner voice isn't always so friendly. Let me tell you my journey over the last couple of years, especially this past 6 months. Last year was really, really a good year. Jane and I finished writing the second book of the Living Organization trilogy. The founder publisher, we began the editing process. I also had successfully trained, by that point in time, 12 consultants to help carry the message of my work, the Living Organization, into their work. It was started off really, the whole year was just an unfolding of one positive thing after another. The book went through the editing process. The community of consultants was beginning to take a sense of ownership for growing it. By December of last year, the book was finished, all its edits. It was about to go into the printer and then off into publishing. And I was reflecting on the year to come. And a little voice inside of me said something to the effect of, 2026 is going to be a big year for you, but it's going to require something of you. Didn't know what, wasn't sure what that meant, but the inner voice was very clear. 2026 was going to be a big year, but only if I could step into it, step into that bigger sense of who I am. Well, the year started off pretty good. As I said, my consulting community was taking ownership for growing it, which was really nice to have a sense of partners. The book was off and running. We started to talk to the marketing people to plan its release, which is going to be September 1st. Quite exciting. Then about March, April, things began to show up. The community began to stall. They weren't quite, they were kind of, they started off really good, but then began to spin and spin and spin and spin and spin. And forward progress began to slow down. I also began to notice a change in the relationship with my existing clients. My inner voice came and said, the path you have been on is not the path you need to continue on. So there I am, focusing on this path that I've been going on and I've been really excited about, but this little nudge, this little quiet, peaceful little voice saying, go this way, go to the right just a little bit. And I looked at the path on the right, and it was scary. It was like this overgrown, foresty place, and I can hear nasty sounds behind it. Sounds of tigers and snakes hissing, and it was, at least that's the way my feeling tone dressed it up. So there I am, standing at the corner, at the crossroads. Do I follow the inner voice, the guidance of my life, or do I stick with the path that I was on that felt good, that felt comfortable, felt like it should be working. Well, I did chose to go down that dark, ugly path. Fortunately, if there was a little machete laying on the front of it, so to speak, and I picked it up with a little bit of courage and started to walk. And I faced many, many difficult situations. I had to deal with one of the consultants who was with me for over 9 years and realized that he no longer quite fit. He helped take me to where I was. He was an immense guide and help along the way, but he wasn't going to take me to where I needed to go. And then I began to look at the other consultants I was working with, and I was even looking at my clients, and I was facing the possibility if I was going to go down this new path, I had to be a little bit more specific about what I expected out of my clients, which meant some of them would go away, which meant my income would go away. My little voice, a friend, was it taking me down a path that is doom and destruction, a path that I could no longer pay my bills, even potentially. I began initially to look at what was out there causing all of this angst, all of these problems. The consultants weren't stepping up. The clients weren't behaving the way they should. They weren't engaging me like I wanted them to. They were coming up with excuse after excuse. But then I remembered something I learned along the way. It's never out there, it's inside. So I put my focus inside. Carl Jung talks about the shadow and how we project the shadow outward. And if you want to improve your life, look inside. I've studied Carl Jung a lot and many others, and I've come up with a more, for me, easier way to look at what's going on. I want you to think about a time in your life back when you were young, perhaps, and when you came across a initial experience of something. Your sibling could have taken a toy away from you. Something where you go, you have that initial experience of something. What do? Right? If you're like me, which I think most of us are, you look at that experience and go, what does this mean? What's going on here? What's happening to me? And you create some story about it, some explanation, something that explains it to you, a narrative, and then you say, okay, since that experience now means this, then I should behave this way, such that I'm safe or successful. When my brother goes for my toy, I know he's being mean to me. He doesn't like me, and I'm going to get back at him. Or he could have made up a different story. But we go through life and we have these experiences, and we are designed to create a meaning on that experience such that we know how to behave in response to it. And we collect these, you might call them story behavior pairs that form a sense of how to respond to life. And they get stored in this thing that psychiatrists call the unconscious, whatever that happens to be, or wherever it happens to reside inside of us, right? And we collect these thousands and thousands of story behavior pairs, sort of like a psychic DNA, which is really kind of cool because the psychic DNA allows us to navigate life very nicely. simple, right? And something happens, we don't have to think about it. We don't have to go through the story making mechanism again. We don't have to take time to figure it out. We just go, oh, event, response. Pretty cool. Well, that is until the responses we get isn't aligned with what we're looking for now in our life, right? And now all of a sudden we got an issue. I use that model, that metaphor as a way for me to understand what goes on when I'm faced with these kinds of situations. What does it mean to go back and look inside of myself? It really, for me, means to go back and look at what is the story I'm carrying about who I am in the world, what these events mean to me, and what behaviors am I automatically responding to. You know, Jane often says to me when I come up with some brilliant explanation about how life works, and I think it's really cool, and she goes, well, that's a nice story. Because in reality, that's all it is. It's just a story I make up. So as I am facing these challenges in my life, I begin to look inside and think about the narratives. I can observe my behaviors. This is the way I'm responding, but then going underneath that and say, why am I responding that way? What is this little voice inviting me to explore within me? This negative thing out there that I am frustrated by or upset by or scared about, or this path that I'm being invited to walk on, a path that my inner voice will say, follow me and doors will open, follow me and the money will flow in. That looks like it's filled with monsters. What is it? What is it that is in with me that if I can reframe that narrative will create a different outcome? You know, part of my belief about how life is manifested, how life is created, is that, you know, we talked about it in our beliefs. All things come from one source. That one source is doesn't have any, how shall I say, any specific thing, at least I don't know if it does, but it's like an infinite possibilities. Every potential that exists in the world is available to me because that one source holds every possibility. So why do I experience only certain outcomes? Well, it goes back to that one source is passing its energy field through me, through my stories, through my filters, and outflows the results I see. It's almost impossible not to create the results I see. So if the results I see isn't what I want, the only place I can really affect a change is not by trying to change out there, but changing the narrative, because the narrative, the story patterns I hold is what's guiding the one source to flow through me into the world I experience. So for me, this whole 6 months, this whole journey has been a narrative that I've held most of my life, a narrative about how I would love to be seen as somebody smart and wise and have something of importance to contribute. But I'm only this little schlunky Jewish kid from Brooklyn who grew up poor, and who am I to have this wisdom to give to the world? And that narrative seems to produce results where I get close to having what I want, but then it breaks down over and over again, repeated pattern. So now I'm sitting here thinking, how do I change that narrative? What's a new narrative that I can create and truly believe in? You know, we listen to that meditation and the affirmations over and over and over again, repeated. And she invited us not to just think about it, but to feel it, feeling it, owning it, becoming it. Like Gandhi said, become the change you want to see in the world. Don't think about the change. Don't hope for the change. Don't wish for the change. Become the change you want to see in the world. You know, and it's funny how the little voice inside of me keeps reminding me. Just the other day, we were driving home, Jane and I were driving home from Costco, and we were talking about, I was saying how blessed I feel in my life with Jane and our relationship and our grandkids and our two dogs that we love and the house we have and the community we have. And then Jane said something about, yeah, and the abundance we have in our life. And I said the abundance, but what I felt in that quiet space inside of me is, not yet, almost, but not yet. And it's like, whoa, wait, who am I being in this moment? You know, I can say the words, I can go, yeah, I live an abundant life, but did I become abundant? Did I truly sense the depth of experiencing abundance? I experience absolutely without even a hint of doubt, feeling of love for my grandkids and the beauty in watching them. I feel never a hint of doubt actually about what I'm going to create in the world. I have confusion about the path I'm going to get there, but not about what it's all about. I did have doubts about abundance. It's like, you don't deserve that. Whoa, where'd you come from, little voice? What I've been discovering and what I want to share is that inner voice is really the soul's invitation to guide you on the path. Follow your bliss, follow the voice. You know, as I go through this, I'm amazed constantly how my inner voice is always there for me. And boy, I gotta tell you, he comes up in some really, really funny places. So the other morning, just recently, Friday, I get up in the morning and I go through my morning emails, and there's one email from a gentleman, the executive director of the nonprofit I belong to, Elijah Interfaith Institute. And I won't go through the details. The details aren't important, but what I realize is as I'm reading this email, I'm beginning to get really upset, angry even. Anger. Okay. And then I read an article right after that, right after this, all this emotion in my, and when I say angry, I'm going into this whole conversation with him about how he did this and that caused that, and if he only listened to me, and if this and if that. And I mean, I'm having this phenomenal conversation with this guy. Of course, he's not present, right? It's just this wonderful conversation I'm having in my head. Sorting it out, figuring it all out. I have the answers. Boy, when I talk to him, I'm going to really. And then I read another email that, well, a couple of, maybe a dozen emails later, and it says, in it reminds me of, it's an article, and in the article it quotes Carl Jung, and the quote was, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Oh, yeah. So I go into meditation, carrying these two very distinct things. And the inner voice, the guidance from Carl Jung reminds me, what is it in my unconscious? What is my story about this? And remembering that what I see out there is often just a reflection of something for me to look at. So I sit with that in meditation and I begin to sense that, some of the things I'm complaining about the executive director and what he didn't do are things that I'm not quite doing that relates to why my business isn't quite, and my consultants and my clients aren't quite doing. Okay, nice reflective story. No quite answers out of the meditation. No, aha, this is what I'm going to do now. But this sense of quiet realignment, I guess that's the way I would describe it. Just a settling in, an acceptance, as the meditation said this morning, an acceptance of who I am right now and who I am becoming, and the balance of accepting myself as I am with no judgment, no projection of judgment out onto others, no judgment of myself, just a new opportunity, a new possibility to move forward, a new slight adjustment in the narrative of my life. Yesterday, I had another little guidance from my inner voice, another article that came across my desk. This one read, let me see if I can get it. Let me see if I can find it here. Hang on. Where did I put it? It's from John Keats. Oh, well, I had it written down here. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's over here. There it is. John Keats is writing a letter to his brother, as it turns out, um, and in it he talks about a concept called negative capability. Negative capability is when a person is capable of being is capable of being in uncertainty, mysteries, and doubts without any irritable reaching after fact or reason. Negative capability. A person is capable of being in uncertainty, mysteries, doubts without any irritable reaching after fact or reason. Oops, sorry about that. I remember, quite a number of years ago, I think it was before COVID, Jane and I were taking a trip to Europe. It was an exciting trip. I think we were going to Barcelona to give a conference, to speak at a conference, but at the same time, it was the first time I had traveled for years, right? For probably 5, 6 years since we did any major traveling. I'm going into this foreign country. I'm going into places I don't know what it's going to be like. Uncertainty was high. And I began to realize I was really, really uncomfortable with the idea. Even though my mind was excited about what we were going to do, inside I was really feeling this discomfort, this fear, this uncertainty about what I was going to face and whether I could manage and navigate through it. And I remember taking a deep breath and saying to myself, learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. It was probably the greatest guidance I had ever had in my life because it allowed me, and I didn't know John Keats' statement at the time, obviously, I just read it recently, remind me that we live so much of our lives in uncertainty, in doubt, in not knowing. And we try so hard to bring certainty to it, so hard to know precisely what's going to happen. And if I do this, then this will produce that result. And yet, so much of our life, we can't do that. We try so hard, but it never does any good to sit in the uncomfortable, in the mystery, in the doubts, without reaching for answers, without trying to make it go away so quickly, but just to live in it. I had a client once that used to say, it was after we took the team to a Brew Joy event, and he said, Norman, what I've learned most is to sit in the middle of the tornado and not make any decisions. Just sit in the middle of the chaos and let it show itself, not bring it to conclusion too fast. Most of my life, I would say if I look back at my life, it has been governed mostly by logic and reason, figuring it out. I mean, well, I created a whole new framework about what business is. I've taken the world of business apart and reconstructed it in a whole new way. That's who I am. I see patterns. And I make frameworks or maps out of it. I define how life works. I have this phenomenal ability to do that. But that's not as beautiful as that is, and how proud I am of it. There's a whole nother part to life that I'm just now beginning to learn about. Awakening it's sort of like that. I just got this book. It's called The Enlightened Heart, an anthology of sacred poetry, edited by Stephen Mitchell. I saw it on the internet and I was so drawn to it because it speaks to what I want to grow into, this ability to sit in the uncertainty, to sit in the infiniteness, the unknowingness of life, to see life through a poet's eyes, through an artist's life, to not know, and to let knowing come of its own accord. Anyway, to sit in the unknowing, to sit in the doubt, to trust, to love, to trust love, to trust life, adds a whole nother dimension. So, inner voice, friend or foe, how has it treated you? As I was writing this, a thought came to me that something Christ said in his teachings. When somebody slaps your cheek, turn to him the other cheek. And I thought that was a nice kind of applicable when the inner voice comes and slaps me up the side of the head. Maybe I should turn and say, thank you. Here's my other one. Teach me more. Maybe it's not such ever a foe, except if I make it so, but a friend guiding me along the way, if only I had the courage to continue to listen to it. And the inner voice shows up in so many subtle ways when we pay attention. So up to you, inner voice, friend or foe. Thank you.
Thank you, Norman. So this is our opportunity to ask questions, make comments. Do you have any specific thing you would like us to consider in doing that, Norman, or just in general?
Well, I just leave it for you. How was, whatever you'd like to share in terms of your experience with your inner voice, your experience with the journey when you're invited into something new and different, something that challenges you. Is it a friend or is it a foe?
Thank you.
Norman, I want to tell you thank you. That just really, your whole talk, every sentence was like this big, oh, somebody turned the light on, somebody opened the blind. You know what I am thinking that I've always done this struggle in the same way that Muhammad Ali did, like look out and to yell and to try to be safe by fighting my way out of it. And I'm not clever enough, or I'm not Muhammad Ali enough, or Evil Knievel was another one, and like I love them. I love Evil Knievel and I love Muhammad Ali, and I honor and cherish. And what does that mean about me being a woman and femininity and being soft and caring and loving and understanding? Well, that's got the big F-U right there, boom. That's kind of where I have been, and that's what I'm fighting. And I want to tell you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really was hungry for every word of that.
My pleasure.
Norman, do you differentiate between different sources of the voice?
That's a great question.
Do we know why there's a little echo?
Good feedback.
It seems like it's with I hear it with
Yeah,
everyone
me too.
right now, Norman, Eric, and myself. Okay, we'll just live with it if you don't. Okay.
I was going to turn do you hear it when I speak? Yeah, I
Yes.
Yes. Just in the last part, not when you
Yeah,
get
I
your
know.
presentation.
I know. I don't know why.
Change something after you finished your talk.
Did it just go away? No, not yet.
No.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway,
The voice.
the voices. What I have discovered, Eric, is there are multiple voices, and it's often very difficult to discern between I'll just characterize it as the voice of the ego versus the voice of the divine or the soul. I do struggle with that constantly. Here's what I've come to so far. The voice of the ego has a tone or a feeling to it. Trying to describe it. It sort of sits up here. Right? So it's the voice of, but it literally is a voice. It's a conversation. It has it's like I'm talking to myself. The voice of the soul feels more inside the body, feels more in terms of what the emotion is, what I'm experiencing, what the energy feels like. And that's how far as I've gotten so far to help me distinguish between the two.
The other, quote, voice that you have is, as you said with your book, you felt this attraction, this resonance to this book, right? Even so, it's not a voice, it's something that speaks to you because it has been put in front of your face, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean by it's, I use the term inner voice, but the inner voice never has a voice, not like a talking voice. I don't hear it in language. I hear it in tonality. I hear it in
Is it more feeling?
what's that?
Is it more feeling and not so much speaking?
Yeah, it's more feeling, but feeling
Yeah.
it's not like a feeling like an emotion per se. So when Jane said, we're abundant, there was a little twinge in my body, a little twinge, which I then said, that's the twinge of doubt, right? But the experience of it was a twinge. When I was reading this, there was sort of like a draw to it, a feeling of I want to read that book, right? That it wasn't like go read. I mean, I interpret that. I explain it by using words like I was told to go get the book, but it's not like a voice is saying, Norman, go order that book. It just is it's just a feel of it's a body sensation is the way I would describe it. To me, that's where the inner voice lies. or for within me, the inner voice is expressed that way. Um, not in language. It's expressed in paying attention to the feeling tones. Uh, that's the best way I come to describe it.
That's interesting because um, this isn't entirely true, but when you say that, what comes to mind is all those messages, follow your bliss. Usually, if the feeling tone feels aligned, you feel more buoyant and optimistic and all, as
Yeah,
opposed to fighting it or
right.
just ignoring it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. There's a buoyancy, sometimes I use the term when I think about it, there's a sense of resonance or a sense of calmness or a sense of buoyancy, a lightness sometimes is the way it feels. I don't know. Words. This is so many where words don't belong. What can I say? And yet there's no, we need the words to try to communicate it. Um, yeah.
Other thoughts, additional.
Carol, you're on mute.
When Norman says he gets that feeling, this is going to sound really weird, guys, but I think that all of our body knows the answer and sends us a shot of dopamine to let us know about it.
That doesn't sound weird at all. There's been studies done mostly by Heart Math Institute. If you guys don't know about it, go read about it. But
I've heard about it, but I
yeah.
didn't delve
They've
into
been
it.
they've been doing work now for decades. I think goes back to the 60s or 70s, maybe earlier. Um, their premise is that the heart is a neurological processing system. In other words, the heart actually processes data, and the heart is the center of the the body. Just like you said, the body experiences something way before the brain, our logical brain, ever knows about it. And according to them, the heart is the first processing of what the body experiences and sends that to the brain. And whether that's done chemically through dopamine or however it's done, electronic firing, I don't know. But and I may not be explaining this perfectly right. Um, there's a video I use in my trainings. I'm happy to share it if you guys want me to, I can send it to Cheryl, a link. That comes from the Heart Math Institute that kind of explains how the body senses something long before, and it goes through the heart up to the brain, and then the brain does its thing to tell the body. That's why we can sense an earthquake. Some people can sense an earthquake before it comes, right? Because the body knows, and those who are tuned to the body can know about it long before the mind does. It's why according to them, why we know somebody's about to call us, and then the phone rings. Right? There's this energy floating around, and that we can pick up. That's getting into sort of the current science around consciousness that people are beginning to discover, that is now validating what's been in scriptures for eons. But a scientific-oriented society needs to have these. We can't try. That's why I'm going back to the sacred poetry, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the poets Rumi, and anyway, yeah, absolutely right. I believe that too, Carol, very much so.
Well,
It's
I've learned that every part of our body has neurons, and they're all talking with each other.
I believe that's very true.
And I had an experience long ago that I couldn't explain, but I didn't need to explain it because it was so powerful. We were driving into Colorado through, was it the Valley of the Gods or whatever? And as we entered the area, my body said, get out of here and get out of here now. And so I told my husband, we can't go there. We can't go there. Get it. No. And we left. Yeah. So I don't know what kind of energy was there, but it wasn't good for me.
And you probably saved your life.
Could be.
No, I totally believe in that. And it's bless you for listening to it. That's that part in us. This is my definition of free will. We have the ability to say no to those voices.
Well, this is a good point. Also, sometimes, at least in my experience, sometimes I feel crabby for no reason. And I can't assign it to anything. And I just asked, is it mine or is it somebody else? And I don't know
Is
who
it
somebody
case?
would be. Yeah, could it be Kate?
Yeah.
And I just release it. It's not mine, I release it.
Oh,
And you
Eric.
you you will notice, I mean, I notice right away, like a relaxing of my body just because I release this energy. So there are other sources that talk to you indirectly that influence your behavior or your feeling.
And I had an experience. I mean, my dreams have always been fun. They've been in color, they've been adventurous, they could have been challenging, and I'm successful. And when I was living with somebody and her daughter came to visit, my dream became mean and nasty and ugly. And so the next day I asked her daughter, I said, how are you feeling? And that's the energy I got was from her because normally I don't feel that way.
It's one of the problems that empaths have in life. People who are highly empathic have to learn how to differentiate what's coming from within them, what's coming from outside of them, because they're just so naturally tuned into energy, picking up the energy, and so they learn shielding techniques and all those kinds of things to protect them. Eric, just the other day I had this, I just couldn't do anything. I had I just could not get motivated to write, to read, to even go through my emails, nothing. I picked up a book, I sat in my chair, I nodded off, I woke up, I read some more, I nodded off. I mean, I spent a whole day doing absolutely nothing. I don't know, I honestly, it's still a mystery to me. Let me put it that way. The mystery of what our life is and how we live it and what affects us and how we affect others. I, I do know it's all energetic. That part I do know, right? But how it evolves and what do I have direct conscious control over and what I don't. Um, but that's where that negative capability to just sit in it and be okay. That's the release part, right?
Yeah.
You stop fighting it. It is what it is. This is the moment I'm living in. And in this moment, my body, my mind, my soul, everything is just inviting me to do nothing. So I'm going to do nothing. Yeah, go ahead, Ananda.
This is a question that I ask Eric a lot.
Uh-oh.
Who do you see is the I, the me that you referred to in what you just said?
Hmm. Well, I can only give you my current
Yeah, right on.
my current formulation of that. What I've come to sense, feel, believe, again, words. I believe that the closest thing is I see myself more and more as an express, and God, the words just don't come easy. Uh, um, an energy, a specific energy expression of divine.
Okay.
So, but that's only part of it. Um, So this is the wave of the ocean, right? The ocean is the divine and I am a wave, that kind of metaphor, right? And so part of me feels that experience. And when I meditate, I try to live there a lot. There's another me, and that me is the psychic DNA set of narratives that I described earlier. And that me is my sense of identity, the way I define myself and what I'm all about. That's the me that I think the Eastern philosophies call the illusionary me, the illusion, right? It's not reality. The reality is I am a wave of the ocean. But my experience of myself today, when I say me, is both simultaneously. I haven't lost to me the identity, what Jung calls the ego sense of self. But I'm becoming more and more aware of the wave, the ocean expressing a wave through me. Right? And I've had some real experience. I've had some real experiences of this when I was writing the first book. I was writing and writing, and I thought I was going to be finished, and I just and every time I thought I was going to finish it, something else came to me, and then I just had this feeling, I'm not writing the book. The book is writing itself through me. That's that kind of experience of the divine, that I'm a vehicle, not even a vehicle, it's that I am a
Conduit?
physical manifestation of the divine expressing itself into the world.
Well,
That's the wave part of it. So I carry both right now.
it goes even beyond that because you have you have people with multiple personality disorder who can actually take the personality of one or the other or a third person, and it can go all the way to physically change certain characteristic of the body or even diseases that these people have. You have also the case where you operate or transplant a heart where suddenly some characteristic of the donor are transmitted into the new person. For instance, things that they like or don't like. You have the issue of channels, right? Who channel, how do you say, entities, I would say, that do not exist physically, but use the body as a mean to communicate. So the body is really a vehicle, and it gets inhabited by something that is bigger than the body.
I started to use that same metaphor. I totally agree with everything you're saying. I just want to just one thing. Assuming the body is a vehicle means it's already preformed, and I don't think it is. I think the body is um, a hardening, a gelling of energy fields.
Mhm.
And the gelling process has a lot to do with the narratives we have. So the multiple personality, as you described, will change the physical form of the body because each entity within, each expression of the divine is carrying a different narrative. So the body has to form up in that different narrative. What gave me a personal experience of this, and I may have shared this previously, is when I had the stent put in my heart. Uh, I was on the table and I wasn't completely under, I was in what they call la land. So I can kind of hear what people are saying from the outside, but I'm in my own la land. And I heard the doctor say, we've got good flow. And the realization was my body took on a blockage because the narrative I had in my life, the story I was telling myself, was one that was blocking the flow of love in my life. So blocking the flow of love as a story of who I am, protect myself, caused a blockage in my heart, right? Because that's where love resides. Now, again, that's just a new narrative I created, as Jane often says. That's a nice story, but it for me, it was the experience of that expression of the divine through me, filtering through those narratives, forming this physical body the way I am.
But this new narrative will influence you just the same.
Laurel wants to say something, guys.
I
Yeah,
want to say, did that answer your question, Ananda?
Well, Not in some kind of final way,
Yeah, it was like I said, you're gonna
but
find
you know,
something to think about.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's all that's all it can be. That, there's no, we each create our own sense of understanding of the world.
Right.
And these talks I give or other things or books we read, they just are stimulants to help us take in, and then we digest, and then we come to new ideas about who we are. Um,
When I was in university taking majoring in psychology, I learned that, Eric, it is true. People with different personalities can have different physical manifestations. One can have blue eyes and the other one have green eyes. And that's what made me wake up early to the power that we have inside that we don't even know how to use. So, yeah, or we're learning how to use, I should say.
I guess the real question that I have about this is, given this phenomenon of multiple personalities manifesting different physical realities and different, I mean, in extreme cases, they kind of know about each other, and yet, they refer, sometimes people refer to that other person, and that sort of thing. If you step back again, who's the observer? Who is the person saying me, saying I? I think it's, uh, quite honestly, this is probably not welcome. I think it's a chimera of consciousness.
a what? Say that.
Chimera of
What
consciousness.
what does that mean? Chimera, I don't.
Chimera.
A a a construction that is functionally useful, but at its core, a fiction. That I mean, look at, I mean, sorry, but these machines now are acting like people. There are noticeable parallels, of what we aberrant behavior, aberrant or negative behavior. It's popping up in these machines. Now, grant, we programmed them, so, like, who was the sculptor who, made it, sculpted himself, and I don't remember the guy who fell in love with his own image, so I mean,
Narcissus.
it's necessary to be skeptical of our skepticism, and it's really complicated.
Well,
Can,
people have been saying for a real long time that we're merely spirits in a physical manifestation.
But are we spirits?
What is
That's,
spirit?
I
Yeah.
mean, that's not provable in any way.
Mm. Nope.
It,
Nothing
it
is.
is
There's,
Nothing.
so
there's the
complicated. Can I just mention that I think you're right? It is so, so complicated, And for me, the complication feels so overwhelming. It's overwhelming because I feel, and you guys go, "Ugh." I feel the feminine is left out. I got this book that called Mary Magdalene, Bride in Exile. I don't know if you remember this woman that wrote this book. Like years ago, I met her. She lived in Seattle. I brought her to us, and she talked to us. and she believes that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married to one another, and other people believe that she was like one of the disciples. There weren't 12 disciples, but there were 13. What do you do with that missing feminine that has been smashed, not just told to shut up, but like smashed? You know, my dad taught me when I was born that women don't count. You don't count the girls. They don't count. So all the talk is men talking about what it is, how it is, when it is, where it is, how to measure it, how to write it, how to produce it. And all the AIs you're talking about are all men. Where's the feminine voice in any of it? Thank you for letting me just rant for a minute. I'm sorry. I know you get sick of hearing it, but that is my rant, and I'm ranting.
Arlene, if you want to understand that part, read about Gnosticism and
I've been doing
Arlene
that, sweetie. I've been looking at that and reading about it. I want to read more.
Arlene Pagels. She did all the research.
Tell me the name again.
Pagels.
Pagel.
Eileen.
Pagel.
Pagels. I send you a link.
Send me a link. I want it. I need it. I'm hungry for it. Okay, please. And Norman, your talk is wonderful. It's beautiful, but it is totally masculine. There isn't any feminine in it. That's not a bad thing, because that's who you are. You know, I'm looking for. I'm sorry, Leela.
Arlene, you missed it. It's the feminine is really deeply embedded in it.
Say it again. The feminine what?
Feminine is completely embedded in my talk.
I'm sorry that I didn't hear it. I've been listening for it, Norman.
The feminine is that place where you can sit in the unknowing. The feminine is that place where you can sit with doubts and uncertainty.
It's a receiving part.
The feminine is not about having to have answers or solutions. That's the masculine part. The feminine part is just allowing the opening.
And who made those rules?
Gracie Slick did, and you know there are more. I've been listening to Gracie Slick lately. She was so cool. You know, she was like White Rabbit. You know, I don't know what you know about Gracie Slick and Janis Joplin and those women and how they did what they did. They had to scream it into the microphone to be heard, and that's too bad. I don't want to scream into the microphone. I just want to be. I want to find my place.
Yeah, you know, Ananda, going back to Ananda's comment, what I'll say is, for me, I resolved all that chaos of trying to figure it out by just listening and allowing and opening to, when you know, the whole notion of trying to prove it. You know, you said it's not provable. Of course it's not. It never will be. You know, I don't know who said it, but there is a statement around, and it may have been Joseph Campbell. I for some reason it comes to my mind that he said it, but it's probably been said by a number of people. The mind cannot understand or hold the infinite.
I think that's a good place to call it a wrap.
Yeah, because this could go on for a really long time.
Yeah, it's great. I got a
Norman.
great, vibrant conversation. So thank you. So the next step in our gathering here is music, and we'll see the words coming up and be muted so we can sing out loud when I pray. I personally love this song, and when I think about it, I go, you know, what does that language mean? And yet when I sing it, it's like I feel it in my body. I think it's the perfect example of how poetry addresses things we can't put into words. You know?
And Linda, I had turned off everything there and just to listen to it, And my hearing aids heard when I pray, I go deeper into my love. It said that's how my hearing aids told me it was love. So I'm happy with that.
Excuse me.
So, let's greet each other with namaste.
Stay.
Namaste.
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 And at this point, we'll just mention that our community, our spiritual community, it's supported by the members of it and God's love. And that happens in service, in presence, and in financial offerings. And if you'd like to make a financial offering, you can go to the website, my-alc.com, or Cheryl, our wonderful communications email person, will be sending out an email that has an address where you can mail a check as well.